Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gagnon Atelier. I'm your old pal, Tim Gagnon, and this is the Modern Masters Podcast. And boy, oh boy, do I got a great show for you today. I'm so excited. You have no idea. Of course, I'm always excited. I know, but today it's extra special exciting. But before we do that, guys, if you can check that scrolling bar right on the bottom. If you're watching us on Facebook, please like the Gagnon Atelier page. Go on over there and hit the like button. Hit the notification buttons so that you can be notified, and the follow so that when we post new things, you can be notified and we can watch it and enjoy each other and have a great time together. Also, if you can share this video, all you got to do is hit the share button, or you can do an extra special Facebook watch party. And what that does is that sends a message to your entire friend list, and it says, hey, I'm watching the Gagnon Atelier Modern Masters Podcast. Click here and you can watch it with me. Those are really fun, and I really appreciate it when you guys do those watch parties for me. And then also check us out on YouTube, the Gagnon Atelier on YouTube, where we have all kinds of videos. We have a special section with every single Modern Masters Podcast interview that we've ever done. There's over 25 on there now. I'm pretty excited about that. And so every week we got a new one coming on. We also have all kinds of different videos on that are topical, like how to give and receive an art critique. We have product reviews on some of the different products that I use in my exhibit that I'm working on right now, the Illuminated Messiah Project. And so there's all kinds of great videos that you can watch. And we've got some extra special content that we are working on right now. It's like top secret stuff that you guys are going to get to see here really, really soon. But with that said, I am going to go over here. I'm going to hide this, and we are going to bring on our guest for today. I'm very excited to introduce him. If you guys have ever read an art magazine, I'm talking International Artist Magazine, International Realism, Miroir Magazine, Realism Today, Gallery Web, I mean, the list goes on and on. You have heard of this guy. All right, so with that said, we are bringing you a true Modern Masters. My guest today, Mark Heine. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a fabulous time. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into art? I know that you were raised by artists to be an artist, is what your website says. So tell us a little bit about your parents and what kind of artists they were and how they raised you to mold you into that.
Well, my father was a commercial artist to start with. He started off as a commercial artist doing architectural rendering and things like that. And when he got to be in his mid 40s or so, he gave up the commercial business, and the whole family moved out to the west coast of Canada. And he started doing paintings for galleries and gallery shows. And so I kind of grew up, when I was young. He had a shop in Edmonton before he moved called Designs of Canada. And it was a big industrial space with teams of artists that were carving and doing wall murals and stained glass. It was really an incredible production.
Oh, wow.
And there was about 15, anywhere between 15 and 20 people working in this warehouse style studio at any one time. And I used to wander through there as a kid. I was maybe grade 1, 2, 3, something like that. I'd be wandering through the studio and watching these professional artists and come from all over the world too. We had a carver from Belgium, and we had a stained glass guy from I can't remember where. And so being around that all the time and watching them make this monumental stuff. They used to do altars for churches and stained glass windows for new church designs, and just amazing stuff.
Oh, so wow. It's really you didn't become a sculptor.
Yeah. Well, I've done some, actually. I've done some commercial sculpture back when I was doing commercial work. And so my dad, he left the commercial art business, went into the fine art thing. And and then was a painter for probably 35 years.
Oh, wow.
He specialized in marine work and got quite good at it. He became the only Canadian ever appointed to the Royal Society of Marine Artists in London, and
Oh, really? Wow.
he used to show with them. And he did some stuff with the Canadian Mint for coins and things like that. And so I was raised around that. But being a young boy, in my high school years, I was more interested in fishing and boating and things like that than I was in painting and drawing.
Right.
But I wound up actually winning an art scholarship in grade 12. I did a poster for a drinking driving counterattack program that they were running here.
Okay.
And so I won this Lieutenant Governor art scholarship for 1979. And I didn't get any other scholarship offers, so I went to art school.
So it was that or nothing, and you chose
that or nothing. Yeah. So my dad, I pretty much followed in his footsteps too. I started off as a commercial illustrator right out of art school, and I did that for 25 years. And then around my mid 40s, I decided that it's maybe time for me to try the fine art end of things. And the commercial artwork too. I did a lot of illustration work for advertising and books and book covers and stuff like that. But it was all going digital at the time that I left it. And I really didn't want to be sitting on a computer all the time working in Photoshop or whatever. I wanted to, I'm still of the old school where I want a paintbrush in my hand. I want to be doing it by hand. So for a while, I was doing kind of a hybrid of that, where some of it was hand painted, some of it was digital. And then I just decided that, if you're going to commit to being a fine artist, you kind of have to commit to that, and
you got to go for it.
Well, and tell people, I think people are willing to give you what you're looking for. And if you make a clear statement that I'm doing fine art now, that's what they'll accept. If you're saying I'm doing commercial art now, that's what they'll try and feed you. But if you're sending a mixed message, people don't really know what you're trying to do. So I decided to get away from the commercial work altogether and embark on a career in fine art.
Well, that's really great advice. I think a lot of people I know, and this was me just a few years ago. I had made the decision because I was working as a commercial artist as well. And it was like, I want to make that transition to being a full-time fine artist.
Right.
And what can I do? And so, I started talking to artists that were already there, that had made the transition. How did they do it? How did they do it? And the advice that you just gave there, you got to at a certain point, you have to stop doing this.
Yeah.
And only do this.
Right.
You can't be doing this because
you just confuse people.
Well, yeah, and I think that confusion is dangerous for your career because people don't take you serious as either then.
That's right. And I've seen it so often with I play a little bit guitar, and I've seen that with friends that are stuck between, what do I do? Do I want to become a musician, or do I want to become an artist, because I like them both? And I've seen people just torn apart, not, they'll do the musician thing for a while and they'll go, okay, this is not working. And then they'll go over to the art thing and they'll do that for a while and go, no, I'll go back. And if you don't make a clear distinction of what you're trying to do, partially for yourself, but also for the people you're working with, it just confuses people. So
right. And the big thing is you got to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
When you make the leap, you got to stay there. You can't just panic and quit and run back. And I think the biggest mistake is that people don't make a plan of how to go from here to here. And if you have a plan, then you start working the plan.
Right.
All the difference made.
And also too, when you're a young artist starting out and you haven't got a reputation and you don't have the galleries in place, what happened to me actually was kind of an interesting thing, because I gave up the commercial work, and then I got a email from I had done a couple of postage stamps for the Turin Olympic Games for the Canadian Olympic team, and we won some awards with that, and it was great. I had my name on the credits for the stamp, and then I got contacted by the postmaster of Liechtenstein in Europe, and he said that they have a thing, a practice where each time they have an Olympic Games, they get an artist from the host country to paint stamps for their Olympic team. And because I was already on, and this was for they were having the Olympics in Vancouver in Canada, so they looked up Canadian artist postage stamp, and my name came up. And so he said, "Would you like to do our postage stamps?" And I said, "No." This is just when I quit doing the commercial work. I said, "No, I'm not really doing that kind of work anymore. I'm doing paintings in oil on canvas." And so we kind of parted ways. And a few days later, I kind of thought about it. I sent him an email. I said, "What if I painted these postage stamps in oil on canvas instead of doing it, with airbrush or something like that?" And he said, "I don't care. As long as it looks good, you can do what you want."
There you go.
So I did these 2 postage stamps for Liechtenstein, and neither one of us could speak the other's language, but he luckily could write in English, and we got along really well. So he said, would you like to do a series with me? We have this series coming up, and it was vintage cars of Europe.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, there's 12 of them, and we'll do 4 per year for the next 3 years. And so I thought to myself, just starting out on this fine art career, if I have this thing in the background that is kind of like a yearly commission that will feed me X amount of money to help support my painting career. And so I agreed to the series, and then we got to the end of 3 years and did the 12 stamps. And he said, they were really popular. And he said, would you like to do 4 more? So I said, okay. So we did another 4. And then he said, would you like to do 4 more? So we did another 4. So I kind of lost track of how many was there. And then the Post Office of Luxembourg was liking what Liechtenstein was doing. So they contacted Liechtenstein, who gave my name. And so I wound up doing a series of, so I've done 52 postage stamps for various countries around Europe. And none of it I've really been looking for. None of it I've been pursuing, but it's been really good as a little bit of a yearly income to help support the fine art thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when a lot of artists, I know when they're making that transition, to me, starving artist is a myth. But there are starving artists out there, and it's usually because they have this thing in their head where, like, there's a lot of them that are like, they refuse to get a day job when they're making that transition, and so they can't yet support themselves with their art sales, but they'd rather starve and do just art than get a day job to give them a base so they can eat and pay their bills, and then do their art on the side and grow that slowly. And, there are some that they just get in their head that if I'm not doing art full time, I'm not a real artist. Now, with the stamps, you had a base.
Yeah, it was and
then build from. That's a great idea.
Yeah, the money in the fine art business, the money is so you never know when it's going to come along.
Sporadic.
It's so sporadic, and so you can't really depend on a check arriving on a certain date all the time. And so having that underlying support for me worked out really well. And I think also too, one of the things that starving artists, what happens with them is when you work as a commercial artist, you understand that it's a business. You have to be there. I mean, people say, oh, you can go to the beach in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. Well, you can't, because your clients are going to be calling in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. You really have to be in the studio from 9 to 5, and you can't wait around for inspiration. You dig in and you work. Yeah, and so I do see a lot of people that are starting out that are stuck because they're not motivated or not sure what to paint,
waiting for inspiration to come down from on high and stuff.
Instead of just sort of duct taping yourself to a chair in the studio and getting to work.
Right. And my friend Matt Tommy has a saying. He is the founder of Thriving Christian Artists. It's a mentoring program for artists who are making that transition. And one of the best quotes I've ever heard anybody say about becoming a professional artist is, you can't expect professional results with hobbyist habits.
Yeah.
And I was just like, boom, that is such a great quote. But that's really the truth. People that are trying to be a pro artist, but they're sitting around waiting for inspiration. They're not doing the work in the studio. They're not, or they're going to the beach or doing all these things. And of course, I go to the beach as much as possible because I live in Florida, so I go to the beach all the time. But but you have to have that studio time. You got to have professional practices, or you're never going to make it, because it is a business.
And that's what another big thing I got from my father is that he was a self-employed artist for most of his life, and so I would see him get up in the morning, go to the studio, work all morning, come in for lunch, go back out, work in the studio until 7 o'clock at night, and that was pretty much every day, including the weekends. So he had a really and he just happened to like what he was doing too, so it wasn't too much.
Right. It's not, that's the thing, but I got friends that are like engineers or they're, accountants and all these things. And they'll call me up sometimes and they'll be venting about their day and their boss and this and that. And they're like, and then they'll feel guilty for venting on me, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Tim, how was your day?" And I'm like, "You don't want to know. You don't want to know. You're just going to get mad at me." And they go, "No, how was your day?" And I'm like, "Well, I painted a pineapple on a surfboard today." And they're like, "I hate you." It's like, you chose to be an accountant. I chose to be an artist. So I'm sorry. My job is fun.
Yeah. It's funny. The weekends come along for me, and the greatest luxury in the world for me is to be able to go and work in the studio on Sunday. And I feel guilty. I should be working on the yard, or I should be doing something, with the family or whatever. But I just want to be in the studio and paint. And the weekends come along. It's like, I got to stop painting now and go mow the lawn,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I am banned from being in the studio on Saturdays and sometimes Sunday in the late afternoon. She lets me come back in here. But for the most part, Saturday, that's either chores or go to the beach, or both. But there will be no studio time. Mama has laid the law down. And I said,
the world over.
But a long time ago, my commander, I was 19 years old. I was getting married, and my commander, he invited me into the conference room. Actually, he invited me. I was told, go see the commander. And I go see the commander, and he says, "So I hear you're getting married." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, we're going to help you out. We're going to teach you the key to a successful marriage." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Repeat after me. Yes, dear." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Say it." And I was like, "Whoa." And so I said, "Yes, dear." He said, "You said it wrong." And then they kept me there. All the high-ranking officers enlisted, they kept me there. And they taught me all 47 ways to say yes, dear. And yes, there are 47. Pretty funny stuff.
You're gonna have to publish that list somewhere and help us all out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like okay, you say it this way, and that's how that'll buy you a few more minutes to watch the game, and this one will, so it's pretty funny. But so yeah, this is great talk, and I hope my viewers are taking notes, because I've been taking notes, because this is good stuff so far. So when did you make your launch? How, you said you were about 40-ish when you made the launch?
Yeah, I switched over when I was in my mid-40s, I guess. So I've been at this now for 15, 17 years, I guess, in the fine art side of things.
Okay.
And I started out actually not really sure what I wanted to paint. And I wound up actually doing a lot of paintings of my kids, because I had lots of photos of the kids. And that's where this whole current project kind of started from. Was I got into figurative painting, and then I started doing some more surreal visions of the kids, something that was a little bit sort of unworldly and different, with a little bit of a twist. And then I started writing about the work. I started, actually it was a gallery that asked me to write back labels or some description of the paintings, so that their people in the gallery, their employees, would have something to say about the paintings when people inquired.
Right.
And so I started writing these things that became back labels for the paintings, and each writing was a little sort of maybe an anecdote of when I was a kid, or my experiences as a father, because these were really, the kids playing on the beach, and nothing really too surreal about these. But I started actually writing back labels before I had the paintings. So I had to then when I had an idea for some kind of writing, I would write it, and then I would have to find an image to paint that would suit the back label. So pretty soon, the two sides became a process. I would either come up with an idea for a back label and find a painting to fit it, or do a painting and write the back label. So it became a back and forth process. And that's what led to the current work and working. I made a decision to try working in fiction, and that allowed me to kind of bend the rules, because I do realism, and I'm basing it on a work of fiction now. So that gave me almost creative license to go places that I could not go before, because they were based on reality, and the current paintings now are based on a work of fiction, so that I can get surreal, but I can still keep the realism that I like to paint. And for me, it's working, because I'm creating this this world in this work of fiction, and the more realistic the work is, this is the way I think anyway, the more realistic the work is, the easier it is for people looking at the paintings and reading the book to become involved in the world. If they don't have to visualize it themselves, or if they can see the painting and maybe come up with visualizations of their own based on that work. So I think working in realism is good, because it helps convince people of the reality of this fictional world.
Right. So you're creating this fantasy fictional world through the art, but also through the writing, and then they can dive in and let their imaginations just fill up the above the painting, beside the painting, below the painting. You know, get that panoramic of what your painting is. They can look around in their imagination and see what else is in that world. I really like that concept. So I want to say, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, ultimately, there's a message in the story. There's a message that the story is written for young adults, and I have a moral a message that I'm sending out as a sort of an underlying message in the story, and I want to get that out to young people. So ultimately, I'd like to perhaps, if it's possible, get a screenplay done, and so the paintings can also work as a visual direction for a director or a screenwriter in terms of building a visual. But that's a long way down the road.
Right. It almost reminds me of James Gurney's Dinotopia books.
No, I don't
know if you've ever seen those. Oh, no. You need to find them. James Gurney. He is a tremendous artist. He actually started his career doing background paintings for an old animated movie called Fire and Ice, which was a Frank Frazetta painting.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then he became to this day he does paleo art, paintings of dinosaurs. He works with paleontologists, things like that.
I am familiar with his work. Yeah.
And he made a book series called Dinotopia, which was this fantasy world where dinosaurs didn't go extinct.
Right.
And they're living with humans, and they have this society and all this. And he would do these glorious paintings of this fantasy world, and then he put it into like a storybook.
Right.
For children. Right. So I can see you doing something like that. Would be amazing. It'd be amazing, because your paintings are absolutely. Now the one that you're working on is called Sirens.
Right. That's the current book. Yeah.
So, and that's based off of the Greek sirens from Greek mythology.
Yeah, it's a contemporary. So it's set in the here and now, but it features characters, the femme fatale made famous in Homer's Odyssey. But the idea behind it is, I live on the west coast of Canada, and we are in Coast Salish territory, which is the native Salish people of the west coast, and so the idea is to combine Greek mythology with Salish mythology, and the reason for that actually is that I'm trying to, in my underlying message for my story, uh, give. It's based on creatures of the ocean, and I'm trying to give a personality and a voice to the ocean and change young people's perception of what's happening and how we deal with the ocean, because we use it either as a big garbage dump, or we rape and pillage in terms of over harvesting the fish. And so I'm trying to my ultimate goal is to try and encourage sustainable thinking and environmental stewardship in young people. So that's really kind of the reason I'm doing the story.
Oh, wow. That's pretty amazing. Let's take a look at some of the paintings.
Sure.
Let's do that. I really want to gotta show you off, because I'm telling you what, our viewers love seeing the art. And so here's one of the paintings from it. And I just love, the underwater, the lighting, the light refracting through the water onto the body. It's a glorious. Tell us a little bit about this painting.
Okay, this painting is called Labyrinth, and it currently is in New York. It was recently showing at the Museum of Modern Art in Spain, and it's supposed to be showing in Sotheby's right now in New York, but unfortunately with COVID, that whole thing's just happened to go online. It was a winner of the Art Salon, the 14th Art Salon for 2019. It was one of the winners. So there are, I think, 75 winners in a show that consisted of, I think there was 4,300 entries from 73 countries.
Oh, wow.
And so I was lucky enough to be chosen for this. And the interesting thing about these underwater paintings is that I've done, I think now, 79 or 80 pieces in the Siren series. Some of them are underwater, some of them are above water. But when you're painting imagery underwater, you get to understand how lighting works underwater. It's very different. The water in Canada, anyway, it's cold, so we only do it in the summertime. I take the kids out there, and I have costumes for them. This is my daughter, Sarah, and we get them in the water, and the water is full of these little suspended particulate of, decomposing matter, leaves and things on the bottom. And so light, when it bounces off the figure, it glows, because these little suspended particulate, almost like dust specks in the water, they glow because they're picking up the reflected light coming off the figure. And then there's various levels of motion that happen, and the suspension of gravity. So if you look here at the hair, the way it's flowing, that's one speed, and then there's what's happening in the background with the kelp moving, and so there's various levels of motion, and reflected color is quite exaggerated in underwater, because the light is bouncing off of things all around. So there's very distinct things that make painting underwater quite a bit more challenging than painting in air. I mean, if you look at that arm, there's a lot of detail that you wouldn't necessarily have to address if it were in air. So it makes things very difficult. But all the things that are different from painting in air, once you get to know them, you can start to exaggerate them. So you can start to work with them and kind of twist the reality and emphasize. So you can, with reflected color, you can go even beyond what would be natural, and you can start to manipulate these features that you get from painting underwater, and motion and things and reflection, and you can start to exaggerate them to help drive the viewer to focus on your focal point and the composition. You can work the composition using these as tools. So they're challenges, but they also become tools. And this piece, I think, is 30 by 40 oil on canvas. Most of my paintings are fairly big. That's sort of a medium size for me. I like to paint big, and I find that too when I'm painting small, and I see so much detail when you're working with material that you've captured from underwater. It's hard to cram it into a small piece. So
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Now, because I was going to ask you, so did you photograph these underwater? Did you get a model? You know, and so you answered that question. Yeah. So
well,
that's your
actually,
daughter.
I have a secret weapon. My wife, Lisa, is a professional editor of
All the cool
years.
people are married to people named Lisa. Just saying.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, Lisa's been an editor for 35 years. So she's doing my editing work for free, or else I wouldn't be on my 5th edit. But also, oddly enough, she is a costume designer. She's a professional costume designer.
Oh, wow.
She's in film and on stage. And so, I'm an artist that likes to write. She's an editor who likes to make costumes. So between the two of us, we've got this strange mixture of skills.
All right, great to collaborate, though.
Collaborate, yes, and so as a matter of fact, I'm looking right now. We're planning a photo shoot. I've done four model photo shoots over the last 4 or 5 years. And we can only do it about 2 weeks in the year in Canada because the rest of the time it's too cold to get in the water.
Right. I was going to say.
And even then, when I get them in the water, we've got like 20 minutes before they start to turn blue. So,
what you need to do is you need to come visit me in Florida.
Yes.
And we could take you down to the state park and you could take videos all the time because it's warm and cozy in the Gulf of Mexico.
It's definitely a challenge here. But so I have 2 models that I work with. One is my daughter, and she's one of the lead characters in the story.
Oh,
and then we have a family friend named Erica who is the other siren. And there's a number of sirens in the story, but in the paintings, I use the 2 of them, and we have costumes for them, and I take them out in the water. I've got a wetsuit, and I've got this bar with 3 underwater cameras mounted on it, and a pistol grip so I don't lose it. And we get in the water, and the great thing about digital photography is you can fire away as much as you want, and you're not spending film. So I get into the water there, and in a matter of 20 minutes, I can shoot probably 800 photos on the 3 cameras, firing them off as fast as possible. And I have no idea what I'm getting because it's really hard to see when these cameras are in their housings. You can't really see what you're shooting, and everything is happening so fast. So I give them a little storyboard in terms of action and things that I want them to do that kind of go along with the plot of the book. And then we all get in the water and fire away. So I'm just in the process right now. We've got a new volunteer model that wants to come work with us, and we have to build a new costume for her. So over on the chair in the living room here is a big pile of sheer fabric that my wife is contemplating right now. She wants to look at the fabric for a while, and she's got a dress dummy that she's going to set up. And,
wow.
And so she has this process where she designs, because the costumes have to look, they have to look like they're not manufactured in a factory.
Right. You want to
look underwater sort of mythical creature type things. They've got to be torn edges, and everything is sort of wrapped and woven strips of fabric and things tied together. So it has a very distinct and quite a Greek feel to the fashion.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're basing this whole story off of the mythological sirens. So
yes, and basically the coming together of 2 cultures, the Coast Salish mythology, which oddly enough has some very interesting connections to ancient Greek mythology and Coast Salish mythology. Around here we have stone petroglyphs carved in rock that are thousands of years old, and they feature mermaids. There's people, carvings of human torso and head with a fish body. So a lot of their mythos, which is spoken, is similar to the creation mythologies and mythologies of ancient Greece. So it's almost like a fusion of the 2 mythologies coming together. And there's one of the lead characters in the story is a native Coast Salish man who becomes the love interest for the siren, one of the sirens.
Oh, wow.
So it's
interesting. It's always fascinated me about ancient cultures, and cryptozoologists would be going crazy right now saying, "Oh, the Native Americans have mermaids, and then the ancient Greeks have mermaids. They must be real," But it is fascinating how cultures that have never interacted at all have very similar mythological creatures and different things. So it's always an amazing thing. I'm always fascinated with ancient cultures and history and things like that. So this is really cool how you're blending the two. You're blending the two.
There's a really interesting symbolism that connects cultures. And one of the things in the story, a big part of the story, is this swirl pattern design that is in the fabrics of the costumes. And I actually made a piece of jewelry, which becomes a big part of the story. And it's a swirl pattern as well. And when you look at swirl patterns, and they're all over the world in cultures, the Maori, and then in Scandinavia. So the same repeating pattern around the world in various mythologies that are unrelated. So it's amazing how
it is. It's pretty amazing stuff. Let me see if this painting. I want to show off some of your wife's beautiful work too on her costumes. So let's take a look at this one. And there's your swirl necklace.
That's the swirl. It's
boom. That was total luck on my part to pull up that painting.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the story circles this amulet and what happens to it. So actually the painting, I just finished the painting about an hour ago. It's been 3 weeks in the works, and in the photograph I was working from, I had the model wearing the amulet, but in the story where the painting was going in the storyline, she didn't have the amulet, so I had to take the amulet out of the photograph. So I have to be careful when I'm painting these things. If the
remember,
I have to remember. So in this painting here, actually, this is again 30 by 30 or 30 by 40, maybe something like that. In this painting, this is actually from a sequel book that I'm working on. So I've written the first book, and it's been about 7 years in production. I have about 50, 60 paintings for the first book. And now I'm working on the second book while the first book is in editing. So this is from the second book. And here we have kind of a mixture of the mythologies. This is a raven on the left. The bird is a raven. And in Coast Salish mythology, the raven is a messenger, but with a bad reputation. He's a trickster.
Right.
And you can see that there's some ravens sort of in the distance in the background. So this raven is bringing a message to this siren, but is it a message that she can trust? Is the point of the painting. And this is Erica. She's our younger model. I think she's 15 here. Oh, wow. I started painting her when she was, I think, 13, and she's now 18. So
they grow up fast. They sure do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's take a look at another painting here. I love this one. This one is just beautiful. And the costumes, now that I know your wife made the costumes, it's like, oh, wow. And there's the swirl pattern.
There's the costume. Well, the funny thing was the swirl pattern in the story, which a lot of the story is centered around, I didn't have that in the book at that point. But when we did the costumes, we found this fabric with the swirl pattern. Then the swirl pattern became part of the story, and then it became in this amulet thing. And so it kind of all is connected. This one is actually the most recent painting. I just completed this about, I guess, about 3 weeks ago or so. And it in the book, the Sirens book, there is creatures that live on land and creatures that live in the sea, and the two never meet. So we've got two worlds in one planet that don't interact really, because we can't breathe underwater. And the creatures that live in the ocean, this is part of my trying to give the ocean a voice and a personality, so that young people will learn to think about it as a living environment and not a garbage dump. And so in the story, these rugged coastlines in Canada, this is off of the west coast of Vancouver Island, the scene, and it's volcanic rock. It's very rugged, very untamed, and natural environment, but it's harsh. It's a very harsh environment. So the idea with this painting is to have these creatures that are basically quite fragile, situated in that harsh environment. And the reason that the environment is so harsh is that it's there to try and prevent creatures from the ocean crossing over and creatures from the land crossing over. So it's meant to keep the two worlds apart. That's at least part of the story, anyway.
Oh wow, that's really, really amazing. I love that. I love that juxtaposition.
Well, and
you have the beautiful girls, and they're soft, and then you have the hard rocks and the rough water and the
harsh
foam.
lighting and things like that as well. And also an interesting thought that, you know, Homer, when he wrote the Odyssey, he had an opinion of sirens, and I actually had to write a little Greek myth that dispels the femme fatale.
I was going to ask you about that, because when I read about the sirens, he had to lash himself to the post because they were singing their song. The siren song would lead sailors to it would put a mind whammy on them, mesmerize them, and cause them to drive into their rocks and die. They would call them and sing them to their doom.
That's right.
So
that's right.
In your story, sirens aren't these evil, wicked monsters that are trying to kill sailors.
Exactly.
Them, but
that's been the impression, since Homer of these sirens being these femme fatale, and this myth that has persisted for how many 3,000 years since Homer wrote it. So it's got some staying power, right? It's the second oldest book in Western culture after the Iliad. So everyone seems to know about the mythology, but I had to write a little Greek myth that explains what had actually happened there, and that it's about this siren and this woman and her husband, who have this ritual of parting each day, and he goes out. He's a fisherman. And she stands on the cliff and waves him away, and his boat gets dashed on the rocks in a storm, and she jumps in after him. And this is where the myth of the siren comes from, that she wasn't trying to lure him to the rocks. He came to the rocks to wave to her. So I'm trying to dispel that whole myth of them being femme fatale. So you have to read the book.
Right. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to see it when it's done. And you said it's being edited. It's in its 5th edit right now.
It's going
to be fat. I can't wait to read it. It's going to be fun. And is it going to be a book where you're obviously going to have the paintings with the story? Is it going to be like that?
I'd like to, but it's difficult. There's so many formats now in terms of publication, with readers and electronic production. So I've got a lot of paintings for the book, and I'm certain that there's no publisher that's ever going to want to put 50 paintings into a book. So I'd have to edit them down a bit, but I'd like to have the images there. Yeah.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I can just see it. It's like we talked about earlier with the Dinotopia books, with they have the beautiful, amazing oil paintings, and then the story with them.
Right.
So you could see his, the amazing artwork with the paintings. And to me, that was the big thing that made it so great. It wasn't like a typical children's book, because the paintings were of such intense realism and the narrative story. And it was just like, it was almost like watching a movie in a book. Children's books tend to be more cartoony, or more childish in the artwork, obviously for reasons. So his book was very different in that. And I can see, if you had the art and the words, it would be very much like that, and dynamic, almost to make it more of a serious book for older kids.
Yeah, I'm targeting it for young adult audience, but it's got romance and deception and it's really about a story, and the underlying message is about the environment and learning to treat the environment better. But that message is not going to get across if it's not got a good story. So
Right.
it's about the story and the interest that the story will hopefully draw readers, and they will get the underlying message of the environment if it's a good enough story that they want to read it.
Excellent. I'm excited to see that book when it comes out. Now, your show for Sirens, though, is coming up. That is August 18th to October 17th.
That's right.
And it's going to be in the Victoria International Marina.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like, what is the International Marina? Tell us a little bit about that so people.
Well, you know, we all are trying to get by in the time of COVID. Art galleries closed, and you can have a show, but you just can't invite anybody to be there. So it is kind of ironic, but you know, I've got all these paintings sitting in my studio in storage, and they're certainly not doing me any good sitting down there. So I was approached to the gallery that I work with in Victoria's, or actually in Sydney, which is just outside Victoria. It's called the Peninsula Gallery, and they were approached by the Victoria International Marina because the marina was built only a couple of years ago, and it's just gorgeous. It's on the waterfront, big halls and a restaurant and this huge dock space that is completely empty because most of it's a marina built for mega yachts, which are 65 feet and above. And most of those are coming up from Seattle to Victoria as a destination. Mm-hmm. But during COVID, they have to do a 2-week quarantine before they can get off the boat. And they have to do a 2-week quarantine when they get back to Seattle. So nobody's coming. So the marina is sitting empty. The display spaces are sitting empty. And but it happens to be on the inner harbor of Victoria, which is, there's a walking trail that runs all around the harbor. And the gallery is right on that walking trail.
Okay, so it's like an outside mall.
No, not so much. It's a building, but it's right next to this walkway.
Okay.
So we've got a sandwich board built up with an arrow that says gallery open, and we're going to be filling this space, and hopefully we'll get some walk-in traffic. I've had showings of this Sirens work all over the place so far, but I've never had a show in my own hometown. And so I thought, you know, even
your opportunity.
Yeah, even if it's not likely that I'm going to sell any work because there's no one in town to buy it. At least I can get up on the walls, and you know, I've got a lot of artist friends in Victoria that would like to see the work in person. They've seen it online and would like to see it in person. So it's going to get up there. It's going to be a good public relations thing, and you never know. Somebody
you never know. That's right.
Might come along and buy it.
You know, it's amazing. My friend Patrick Reynolds, he was known for a long time as the angel artist. He would paint these beautiful angel paintings and things like that. And he had a painting. He opened a gallery in the Panama City Mall. Now, Panama City has a nickname, and it's called the Redneck Riviera.
Okay.
Okay. So the Panama City Mall is not a place that you would find an art gallery. And so everyone was like, is he crazy? He's never going to sell anything in the Panama City Mall. Actually, they go, the Panama City Mall is how you say it. And like, if you go 30 minutes west of here, you go to Destin, Florida, in the 30A area, which is, there's got to be at least 50 art galleries there. It's like an art commune. It's like all the super rich millionaires from all over America, they want to buy a house on 30A. And so it's all these art galleries for their vacation homes.
Yes.
And, you know, that's the place to sell your art. But he was in the Panama City Mall. And it was like, what are you doing? He sold a painting. One painting of his was like $45,000.
Wow.
And he sold it.
Yeah.
Some rich guy from Atlanta was just like bored and was visiting, and he was in the mall.
It only takes one.
He walked in and he saw the painting. He had to have it, and it was huge. It was like 10 feet tall. Wow. I remember the painting. I'm like, he's never going to sell that.
Yeah, and hard to find somebody with a wall space that can accommodate something like that.
Right, but he sold it. He sold it. He's been on the show too. It was a pretty fun broadcast. That man could sell ice to an Eskimo, as the saying goes. And he is the king of the art festivals.
Oh.
You know, they go with the tents and stuff, and they put all their art.
Oh, right.
He sells like hotcakes at those things. He's
that
just
right?
a man.
Wow.
Yeah, he really is. So it's always funny. You know, you never know. So, you know, we'll see how you're going to do at the show.
And you know, like I said, I'll be there, you know, for the opening, and I'm going to be there, you know, on a couple of Saturdays because it's a 2-month-long show, and you know, I have a chance to talk to people that I've only met online, and you know, artists that are friends of mine on social media that I've never actually had a chance to meet. So it'll be a little bit of a public relations exercise. But here's one of the interesting things about I think is interesting about the Sirens project, which is the combination of the paintings and the book. And what I'm hoping is, you know, on one side we've got paintings, and on the other side we've got the book. So we've got two elements, but I'm hoping that the connection or the relationship between the two elements will create a third element, which is the combination of the two. So hopefully each one will lift the other, because there's a book and there's a thing. They just happen to be about the same subject. So
sure. Are you going to have like is there going to be anybody there maybe reading excerpts from the book?
I don't think my wife will allow that.
Oh, because it's not finished editing. I gotcha.
Right. So yeah, it's not finished, and she's very, you know, I quite often get people contacting me asking if they can use a painting for their book cover or their album cover for music or something like that. And I actually made the mistake of saying yes a couple of times before I got scolded, because I can't really allow other people to use my stuff on their book when it's supposed to be going into my book. So
right, you got to be real careful with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know I am not the only one that gets scolded by the wife. You know, we call it in my house. We call it a bolt of Lisa, because it's pretty much scary as getting struck by lightning. So
yeah, she's very good at taking care of me, because I'll quite often, you know, I have a tendency to overshare. And so she'll, you know, if I'm writing an article for a magazine or something like that, it has to go through her so she can sort of take out some of the oversharing and
yeah, 10 words or less. Yeah, that's you know, exactly. You are a storyteller by your own admission, and that means you are wordy.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So give us some advice for some of the viewers that are maybe wanting to make the jump into the art world as a professional full-time artist, and they want to know, should they go the gallery route? You know, what is your advice to approach a gallery to get into something like that?
It's a tough time right now. Again, with COVID,
right now
and stuff like that. I mean, when things open up, you know, it will be different advice too. But I think I know here in Canada that a lot of the galleries are really concentrating more on online presence, and through things like Artsy and you know, online gallery shows even. And so I think having a good presence online at this time is probably one of the only ways of getting work sold, because galleries are so restricted in terms of how many people are.
For so many reasons. Yeah. So you're saying that online, having a good online presence is, and I'm a big advocate of that as well. Obviously, you know, we're doing a podcast here, so.
Yeah, but also, you know, a lot of the galleries, the good galleries already have an online presence. So going with a traditional gallery will give you space to show when things clear up a bit. Give you space to show your original work for people that don't really want to buy online, because it's a scary step to put that much money into something that you haven't actually seen in person. So it gives you not just a space to hang the work, but it also gives you a connection to their web presence and whatever they partake in terms of artsy and opportunities online. So the traditional galleries, I think, are still really important, and they can help you to connect to that online world as well. I mean, I have a gallery in Denver, the Alban Gallery in Denver. They have a bunch of my work up on Artsy, and I have a recently working with an agent in New York who's got a bunch of work, and he's doing it all online. He wanted 12 paintings that had no connection to any other gallery, so that when they sell, it's clear who's getting the commission for them, right? So it seems like the working with the traditional galleries and their connections to online gives you kind of the best of both worlds.
Gives you the best of both worlds, right? I see what you're saying, because they're going to put it out on the internet for you, and they're going to spread it out to their network.
Yeah, and most of them have a much wider viewing audience. My viewing audience on social media is all other artists that don't really want to buy work. Their social media connections are collectors. Big difference.
that is such a huge point right there. You know, it's great to have an online presence and be super popular online, but if all of your social media fans are other artists,
yeah,
what good is that?
Feedback, but you don't get a lot of sales.
Right. You want to get yourself in front of people that are actually in the position to buy your work. Galleries know how to find those people.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And another interesting thing that's happening these days because of COVID, and even this was before COVID, was I belong to a group called Poets and Artists Society, and it's not a society. It's kind of more like a group of people that are brought together, and the coordinator Dee, she sets up shows in various different cities. So her main focus is online sales, but she also sets up specialty shows. I've shown in Europe with her, and in Ireland, and down in the States in various places, Chicago and Wisconsin, and so she sets up these kind of group shows. So it's almost like an art gallery, but with more emphasis on the social media and less on the actual space.
Right. And I think in a lot of ways that's the wave of the future.
Yeah. I know galleries here in Canada that, very successful galleries that basically just gave up space. They just don't use physical space anymore. It's all online, and that started 10, 12 years ago. So it seems like
you don't have to pay for a brick and mortar building. That can be that's a big cost.
That's expensive. It is, and galleries, when when a traditional gallery takes on a painting, they make an investment in it because, it goes up on the wall, and wall space is finite and expensive. So, they've had it up on the wall for a while. They've got investment in it. And so they don't really want to let it go.
Right.
Whereas with a strictly online thing, there's no investment in terms of shipping or in terms of the retail space. So it's a little bit more flexible, I think, online.
Well, that's some fantastic advice. We are out of time, actually. I can't believe how fast it went by. This was such a great show. We need to have you back on so that we can talk some more and you can tell us all about how the show went and things like that. So hopefully you'll be able to come on here again in the future. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. I'll definitely, and I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but I'll come on when I've actually got the book in my hand, the published book in my hand.
That's what we're going to do. That's the plan. I am super excited to see this book. So when that time comes, we're going to jump all over that. Well, Mark, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. I'm going to say my goodbyes to the audience, and I'll come back on and talk with you in just a bit.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you. Well, guys, whoa, I told you this was going to be a good show. Man, wasn't that a good show? Man, his artwork is absolutely spectacular. It's beautiful. I love the fact that he's got a narrative to his paintings, you know, that there's a story behind the paintings. It just, that to me gives it that extra pizzazz, that extra, just, it makes you want to know more. And so having a book that you can read with these paintings, it's just, what a great idea. And it fascinates me. It's the type of art that I do. It's got a narrative behind each painting that people can read about. And so obviously I'm in love with the Sirens project, and I can't wait to see that book. I wish I could get on a plane and fly up there and see the show. But man, I really appreciate Mark coming on. You can check him out right there at mheine.com. You can check it out. He's got a great website, a lot of stuff going on there. And again, as always, guys, if you can like this broadcast, hit the like button, hit the share button. I would really appreciate that, so that your friends can watch this interview with Mark Heine. And also, if you can go on over to the Gagnon Atelier Facebook page or the Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel, and either like that page, or on YouTube, subscribe to the page, hit the notification bell. That will help us out a lot. We've got a ton of content for you out there. If you like the Modern Masters podcast, again, there's over 25 interviews with, no joke, legit modern master, top artists in the world today, talking about their careers, their lives, their methods, their style, everything. So great interviews there, and a lot of other content. So with that said, guys, I just want to say thank you again for watching. And as always, remember, God loves you, and so does your old pal Tim. We'll talk to you next time.